Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the NerdRabbit Podcast. I'm really excited today. We are being joined by the CEO of one of our partners, another AWS partner who we've been working with recently in a few different ways. So really excited to introduce Aran Khanna. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Chris. It's great to be here.
Really excited. In AWS, there's a lot of different tools, there's a lot of methods, there's a lot of complexity, and something that people regularly look for is simplicity in that complex world. They look for ways to make sense of especially the things that matter to them, like the bottom line, like finances. Part of our conversation started a lot around some of the financial operations aspects that a lot of these companies face when they're existing in the cloud, trying to understand how I can, they always hear, go to the cloud, save money because it's cheaper in the cloud. And it is, but it's not as simple as just, okay, you're in the cloud, you're saving money, congratulations. There's some planning that's involved in that. So I'd love you just to introduce, yourself a little bit, your background, and your company, Archera, and what your kind of mission is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you alluded to, we are a cloud company that's focused on helping customers save money, but in a bit of a unique way. And that speaks to my background, actually coming from over a decade working in the cloud world. I started my career over at Microsoft Azure on the kind of early Fabric team when Ballmer was actually still the CEO of all of Microsoft. So before the Satya days, they were still working on cloud. And I got to work in the early days planning really the commercialization of the Azure cloud. From there, I worked at a small startup that was acquired by AWS to become their SageMaker team. So I joined with that team and really built out the SageMaker and broader AI portfolio of products at AWS from really nothing in the ecosystem, especially nothing using GPUs for deep learning, to over 50 services, including the core SageMaker service, DeepLens, the model marketplace, which is now Amazon Bedrock. And really through that process, I saw that GPUs were as expensive for customers then as they are now. And it was really difficult for them to plan with these very expensive and high variability R&D efforts, what their cost was going to be. And, in some of our enterprise use cases, how much of this capacity to even commit to, because the models change so quickly, the compute requirements change so quickly, and even the architectures of the chips under the hood change so quickly. And in trying to figure out these problems, I actually worked within Amazon to try and launch a product to help customers plan their commitments better and actually underwrite some of that risk that the customers were taking on, we were asking them to take on. But it turned out that, big companies like Amazon and Microsoft have incentives that make it hard for them to do things like wholesale forgive customer commitments to spend money on their platform. And that's where we started at Archera with a little bit of a different view on the space. So we are a cloud purchasing and management platform that's completely free. And we're built to help customers contextualize what they're spending today and how they can save money, either through what we like to call usage optimization, figuring out what the underlying machines and technical changes you can make to actually consume less, as well as rate optimization, figuring out what are the credits and commitments you can make to spend less on the billing side. And we bring all that together and give it away for customers to use for free and help them go from basically 0 to 100 with partners like you guys on their FinOps journey. And we do it because really the product and the way we monetize is in creating net new primitives that customers can use. Particularly what we've created is called cloud commitment insurance or guaranteed savings plans and reserved instances. And these allow customers to solve that problem that I saw at AWS with expensive and high variance R&D workloads. We can say for a customer, hey, you can commit for a 1-year commitment, say, to this GPU instance, and anytime after 30 days, if that commitment goes unused, our insurance will basically cover the cost of that unused commitment, either by rebating the difference or buying the rest of that commitment back from the customer. And that actually allows customers to unlock new strategies that even with the best FinOps practices in place, they couldn't achieve because they have a balance sheet partner now in Archera to absorb some of that risk and allow them to be more aggressive and forward leaning in their commitment strategies.
Yeah, and with those commitments, they can get pretty locked into a path, right? It's not that the commitments are, they're obviously aiming to help you save money on the processing that you're using. But like you mentioned with R&D specifically, this is changing landscape, and some of these commitments can have great savings for a 3-year commitment. But is 3 years, exactly the GPU you're signing up for, is that worth it in 3 years? Is your R&D going to change your needs? And if you're stuck committed to it, it can be a big problem. So again, future-proofing yourself while still feeling like you have the flexibility to pursue whatever new business endeavor you're going for. It's something the cloud does offer for, but it takes some know-how, and Archera, from what I've seen, really simplifies that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key things that we do for our customers is we provide a really powerful machine learning driven engine that actually helps them figure out what are the right commitment plans, both without insurance entirely, in which case we'll never charge the customers a penny. They can plan their native commitments and even automate the execution of strategies through our platform entirely for free. But we also say, hey, now that we have this idea of insurance for commitments, where can this new tool be used in this broader set of strategies that we're putting in front of the customer to really augment their flexibility or their savings rate, or really both, in a compelling way? And that's kind of the beauty of our platform. It's not just a place where you can come and look at an insurance quote. We've really built the full end-to-end machine learning driven purchasing solution. And uniquely, we've actually put the customer in control. The customer can go down and edit a plan down to the individual commitment level, but we start them with really intelligent defaults and help them get to a decision and get to the right decision much, much faster. And what's interesting about that is because commitments, when they're not being made, you're basically being billed on demand. Every second, you're wasting money. So by helping customers de-risk these decisions with insurance and use our visibility and planning tools to get to the right decision faster, because they really understand the universe of possibilities immediately upon logging into Archera and seeing our pre-generated plans, we're able to actually not just save the money on the back end post-purchase, but by getting them to a purchase decision faster, we're able to save them money on the front end as well.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned how you use ML to empower this thing. That's something that when we initially started working with your tool, we thought was really cool about it, right? So when we were playing around, we saw how it's able, with the guaranteed reserved instances, it was able to recommend to us basically a few different plans. Yeah, I mean, it was using your ML and stuff to figure out what makes sense. And it was really based on really two key variables, which was how much can you save in the long run, or how flexible do you want to be? You can save money either way, is what it's saying, but there's different levels you can save. So, I mean, can you walk us through a little more about some of the different ways you're using AI, ML over there to really enrich that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's some ways that we're using it that are visible to our partners and our customers, such as essentially giving them the levers, like you said, to say, hey, how flexible do I want to be versus how aggressive do I want to be on savings? And translating that under the hood into really granular plans that cross the boundary of different savings instruments like database RIs and savings plans of different variable upfront amounts, and creates a holistic strategy using machine learning from those sort of high level parameters that customers put in. So that's something that's highly visible, right? And we're using things like forecasting algorithms, we're using things like dynamic programming and planning algorithms. We're actually solving NP hard problems, funnily enough, under the hood for customers to do things like planning the optimal amount of upfront that we put into commitment plans. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on to generate those strategies for customers, and a lot of that's visible. On the back end, though, and what's really exciting about the insurance product and the broader suite of financial services products that we're offering to customers tailored for this cloud world, is a lot of our underwriting is also driven by machine learning and dynamics. So we're able to look at customers' historical usage patterns. We're able to look at global market data that we have across the billions of dollars of cloud spend that we track on behalf of customers, and determine how should we price risk for a customer having something go unused? What is a fair rate? And how can we work with the data and our understanding to continuously try and bring lower and lower premium rates to our customers, so we're bringing them the most value as we start getting to scale? Those are all things that are actually driven on the back end by AI and machine learning. And I like to say, as an insurance business, right, the the kind of differentiation that you get is in your underwriting and your pricing algorithm. And that's another key place where customers might not see it readily in their console, but that's where we're applying machine learning and AI to provide a lot of value in terms of the actual lower rates we're able to pass along to our customers.
Yeah, they get these cheaper prices, but they don't necessarily know all that goes into attaining those cheaper prices. So, no, it makes perfect sense that there'd obviously be a lot of more technical elements that might not be appreciated just, right on the cover, but it's kind of like a book, I guess, in that regard. The cover's great, but a good book's a good book. Something else, because you were talking a little bit about scale there, and it's how you're able to use the scale of data to really help in how you underwrite and how you use AI to help people. But also, I think there's another thing that's really scale driven that you can kind of, again, help remove some of the haze from, which is EDP. I know you guys talk a good bit about that on your site, and I know that when it comes to commitment planning, when it comes to being financially sound, it gets hard when you're working in the millions and millions of dollars of cloud spend, which is where that EDP tends to exist. So can you talk more about how you're able to help those customers who are trying to get the most out of this EDP?
Yeah, absolutely. So private pricing and enterprise discount plans are something that cloud providers often will offer to large customers that are tied to not a commitment to an individual resource like a GPU machine or a RDS instance, but really a top level spend that a customer has to meet on an ongoing basis year over year to get some discount across their entire invoice from that vendor, that cloud vendor. And so these generally are more complicated, but the way that we view it as Archera is that this is just another instance of a commitment, like a large savings plan or an RI. And our our goal is again to go and price the insurance on that. So we actually have a separate insurance product that looks very similar to what we do to underwrite a given commitment in a customer's account that applies to these EDPs. And the way that we help customers reason through that is we actually created a scenario planning tool that really from the moment we land in the customer's account starts generating granular forecasts, breaking down spend by different business units, R&D versus cost of goods sold, and then providing customers on the back end the flexibility to move out of spreadsheets and use this tool to really get a good sense of the different scenarios that could be applicable to their EDP. Hence, we call it the scenario planning tool. And that really helps customers. And again, this is entirely free. Reason through what are the types of commitments that make sense for me. Just like with our purchase planning tool, we show them kind of the bookends of what is possible. We show them in the EDP planning tool what are the different scenarios given your likely growth, or in some cases, not growing that quickly, that might make sense from a commitment perspective. And we let them incorporate their own forecasts and their own ideas around potential future workloads, like a big GPU machine coming out that might not be up yet, and bring that into the planning process so they can understand one, what are the commitments that might make sense for me? And two, does it make sense for me to actually work with Archera and get insurance for this EDP and maybe be a little bit more aggressive because I might be able to save more? And that is another place where we can really go in and help customers not just reason about how to make this really large top level commitment to their provider, but also help give them that same downside protection that we are helping with on the individual RIs and savings plans that might be purchasing from this cloud provider.
Yeah, and something you mentioned there, which I don't think we've dug into too much yet, was the free sign up element of it. I know in a lot of the world that might be dealing with large software spends, the software might have a license cost that's just not terribly uncommon nowadays. So to find a software that's free to sign up for and is something that you're actually really you're paying for processing you want to use anyways that you would have paid for through AWS, but instead you're paying less for it somewhere else, but it's still happening in AWS. I think that's really a novel element to what you're doing because low barrier to entry. Anyone can get in there, see what you're doing. So I think that's another really exciting element of kind of what you guys have going on there. For the rest of 2024, just to kind of finish things up, I'd love to know some of the big initiatives that you guys have planned going through the remainder of the year, some stuff you were really excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in addition to what we've talked about, we're really excited about increasing the amount of cloud programs that we're supporting. I know we're currently working together on things like well-architected reviews, and we're soon coming out with migration acceleration program checklists. And these are really built to help customers go from, early builds of their products and services in the cloud to more mature versions that are compliant with security requirements, disaster recovery requirements, cost optimization pillars, which we help heavily with. And we've actually developed software to help customers and our partners go from 0 to 1 there. And what's unique is actually as customers get more maturity and we're able to get them through migration acceleration programs and through well-architect reviews, we're actually able to underwrite with higher confidence against those customers and offer them lower premiums. And that's actually reflected through in our application and will be increasingly so. So things like that might be, a little tangential to the core cost saving activity, we've actually found in our data and underwriting that it helps us understand the customer and give them additional discounts on premiums much, much better. So we plan on doing more things there. And additionally, we're planning on expanding the clouds that we operate in. Right now, we're on AWS, and we've recently released Azure. We're planning on being in Google by the end of the year as well, and supporting more ISV vendors that customers end up having as a large portion of their cloud bill. Often we see things like CrowdStrike and Databricks and Snowflake going through the AWS marketplace.
MongoDB. There's a billion other things
MongoDB.
someone could be using, right? And they might want to be able to understand all of it as a cohesive picture, not just the AWS or Azure or Google side.
Correct. And I think that's something that, we're having customers ask for. And by the end of the year, we'll have a lot more coverage there that should hopefully enable us to have even more value with customers who are, looking for a free tool to go through this cost optimization and FinOps journey, but also looking for the ability to find new capabilities that don't come bundled in native tools from Azure, AWS, and Google on the cost and FinOps side.
Exciting. As it goes, we're already working with you guys. I look forward to these changes because it's something that I'll get to kind of sit alongside and work with you in whatever capacity that changes for our partnership. I really love the fact that it's going to keep getting better for people as time goes on. We live in this age of AI, of ML, where time and data is just a huge asset that we have to continue growing upon and making something better. So I think that you guys are one of those big forces pushing in that space. Can't wait to see how this expands. Can't wait to see how we can use it on our platform to keep saving as much as we can and working with other customers to do the same. Well, again, Aran Khanna, CEO of Archera, we thank you for joining us today on this podcast at NerdRabbit. And, we'll talk again soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Chris. It was great to chat.